Hello and welcome to Hashtag No Limits. I am your host, Shelly Kino, and Hashtag No Limits is about people who society places limits upon, but who are busting through those limits. Ophelia says in Hamlet, "We know who we are, but not who we will be." And I believe that to be 100% true, and that there is not a better or more beautiful example than the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. For those of you who don't really understand the process, I'm going to give you a super simplified, very short version of what happens. Basically, the caterpillar dissolves into its cells, and then it must think its life is over at that point. It reforms, though, into the butterfly, but it isn't finished struggling. While it's in the cocoon, it then has to build the strength of its wings by fighting to get out of the cocoon. But all of those struggles lead to it being able to soar to new and wonderful heights and be something it never anticipated that it would be. And that can't be easy, but neither is busting through the limits that society places upon us. And so I'm so thrilled and excited every opportunity that I have to share these wonderful stories with you. And before I bring my guest on today, I've just got to do the little bit of business stuff. So make sure if you're watching live with us today that you give us a hashtag live and where you're watching from. If you're watching in the replay, give us a hashtag replay and where you're watching from. Please be sure if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions for myself or my guest pertaining to our episode today, that you put those in. And if they're live, we will get to them on air. If they come in the replay, we will address them later on, but I will be sure that they get addressed. So I think that covers. Oh, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button because you don't want to miss a single episode of Hashtag No Limits. Okay, now I'm finished. Let me bring on my guest today. Welcome, Constance. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. It is summertime and things are starting to slow down a little bit. So I'm happy about that. Does that happen in your house or not? The summertime pretty much, it's still crazy?
No, it does slow down, and mostly the mornings. The mornings, there's no crazy rushing, which I really, really enjoy. I just love that slower pace. Even if they're going to camp, it's still later in the day. So I really appreciate that slower morning and everybody just kind of taking their time to wake up. And I'm not trying to force all three kids in the car. Let's go, let's go. So I really appreciate that. I do, by the end of the summer days, I'm like, okay, everybody get outside. But I do,
Right?
yes. And it's hot in Florida, so it's hard to be outside sometimes. So I enjoy the slower pace. But
Yeah. And I'm in Southern Illinois and we're up in the 90s already today. And the feel like temperature with the humidity is middle or even maybe even upper 90s,
yeah.
possibly 100. I don't even know. I just know it's really gross outside and I tend not to go out much in the summertime, but I do like the slower pace of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you caught on that I didn't really tell the audience much about you. So would you mind doing that for everybody?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Constance Lewis, and I have a long history of different educational backgrounds, but essentially I was a NICU nurse for a long time, and now a women's health nurse practitioner turned stay-at-home mom into a children's author of 2 books right now. And that all stemmed from just family life from my son's medical diagnosis and walking through that. So really just my history comes from the medical background, and my husband as well, who's the co-author of the books. He is a pediatric dentist. So we just come from a background of knowing a lot about the medical side and then becoming parents and knowing that that changes a lot when you're raising kids with different behaviors and different personalities. And then you add a medical challenge onto that and into the family household. And all of that led to the passion and the purpose behind the 2 books that we wrote.
And I'm really looking forward to getting into these books a little bit more. When you, and by the way, hello, Tony. He posted hello, so I just wanted to make sure to say that to him. I'm really looking forward to the why behind each of the books, and kind of where the inspiration. I mean, you kind of touched on that already in your introduction, but I know that there is more to the story, so to speak, than what you've already talked about. So let's get into just right off the bat. So your first one the first book that you wrote about your son, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about that book first. Go ahead and give, all that you want to give about that book.
Awesome. Great question. So I never thought I was going to write a children's book. I just wanted to put that out there. That was never something that I had a dream about until I actually literally had a dream about it, that I was going to write a children's book. And I woke up thinking that was kind of a weird dream. And what would I write about? So my son, Miles, who is the oldest of three, he was essentially born a very healthy child, very actually intelligent. He is emotionally intelligent as well. And we've always just really focused on teaching emotional intelligence, allowing emotions, and finding ways to deal with them, in a way that's healthy. So at the age of 4, he developed seizures out of nowhere. Just one day they started, and unexplainable in the beginning, and they would be very long, 30 minutes. We'd have to call 911. He'd go to the hospital. It was a whole thing. And when he first started, they were about every 3 months apart. And then after a year, they were every 10 to 14 days. And after many visits to different neurologists, finally on the fourth one, he actually found a brain lesion on Miles's brain in his left temporal lobe. And after medications failing and continued seizures, we determined that brain surgery would be the best option for him, where they would remove his entire left temporal lobe of his brain, which is extremely scary as a parent, thinking you're taking out a piece of my son's brain. Even being in the medical field that we are in, it's different when it's your child, as many people know.
Yeah.
And so we went in and we did a bunch of neuropsych testing just to make sure if we removed this part of this brain, what would change, and if he would change. And a lot of times children who have this section of the brain removed, it's more of learning verbal memory and word recognition, word memory. And they weren't really able to tell us much. They thought that he's had this since birth, and they actually thought his right brain took over his left brain. So they thought it was going to be a pretty good outcome, but they really couldn't give us an exact thing. So we just went in, and he had surgery the day after his kindergarten graduation, which was wild.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, crazy. And he did so well. He came out of the hospital in 2 days, which is the fastest they've ever had. And he came home and healed. And in the beginning, he did have some word memory recognition problems, recalling stories. So he would look in the sky and he would say, "Oh, I see that white fluffy thing," but he couldn't remember the word cloud. And so we did a lot of speech therapy and memory function. And we were in through all of this. He would have a seizure, and after brain surgery and after coming off of the medications, and the medications themselves just being so harsh, he had trouble explaining his emotions. And he used to be able to, and then he was led to not. And so that was interesting to us, but also like, how can we help him? How can we help him tell us how he's feeling? When he has to go get blood at the hospital, when he has to go in for a test, is he scared? Is he frustrated? Is he mad? We don't know, because he isn't as much able to explain to us using his words. And so we thought about color and emotion as a thought to bring them together as a way for our child to express his emotions. And we even started doing it with our daughter, because kids love color. And we thought, if we can combine two things together, emotion with color, and we just let them pick the emotion that goes with the color, and they could put on that color, it could give us a heads up of how they're feeling. And then we could pull tools out of our toolbox to help with that. And so that was the idea behind the book, with the colorful capes of feelings with Miles, because he used to love to dress up as superheroes. Love it. He loved it. It was his thing. He used to wear a cape. He felt brave. He felt strong. We'd go to the hospital. It was always superheroes. And so I thought, if we could make a book that describes colorful capes of feelings, and he goes through the book and he picks out different colorful capes and he gives them to their friends when they're having hard times or different feelings, and he gives them a tool to deal with that in the moment as well. So that's where the book essentially came from.
That is beautiful, incredible, inspiring, all the things. Because as a special education teacher, I find it so fascinating that you well, how are we going to do this? And, allowing him to direct how it was going to go, basically, and being able to associate a color with a feeling is brilliant. And I not have I ever really thought about that, to be able to do that. And then to turn it into superhero type of work, and making each child feel like a superhero, even when they're dealing with big emotions.
Mhm.
Um, that is so amazing that you came up with that, and kudos to you and that dream that you had. I'm an author as well, and never in my life did I anticipate that I would write a book. And yeah, so again, it was kind of like, you had a dream. I feel like the Lord spoke to me and said, you need to write down these stories, and you need to express these stories for these families.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's you follow those kinds of things, and you do what you feel led to do. And so you said he was 4 when he started having these things. The surgery was the day after kindergarten graduation.
Mhm.
So how old is he now?
Yeah, so he is 8 now. He'll be 9 in December. He's going into 3rd grade. So it's 2 years ago in May was our surgery date. And he's been off medication. It'll be a year in August that he actually has been able to come off medication completely. And knock on wood, he's been seizure free since the day he's had surgery, which is extremely
Praise the
blessed.
Lord.
Yeah. So
Yes.
we had a 70 to 80% chance going in, which is a huge, I thought, just being in the medical field, that's very good statistics.
Right.
And although you do see lots of families, I joined some groups that were in the same boat and had the same surgeries and the same things with children. And not all of them were cured of seizures. And so you just never knew. But I mean, we had a neurology appointment this February, and my neurologist said, or his neurologist said, I said, what's the chance of percentage of him having a seizure now that he's made it 2 years and he's off medicine almost a year? And he said the same as the general population, which is 1% to 2%. So that was just,
wow.
I know, it just blew my mind, and it's fascinating and amazing. And we feel so lucky and blessed. I still have some trauma that I feel like I sit on eggshells, like it could happen any day. And I just keep trying to push and project the positivity out. But you still feel a little worried. So he's doing so good, and he's really recovered well. He still has a 504 that he works on. And it's been really helpful because sometimes he does have trouble with verbal instructions. And so they have to allow some extra time for that. So he has that in place just to make sure that's supportive of him. And we're just going to keep that through through 3rd grade just to see how he does. But he seems to do well. His teachers say that he's doing excellent, but it's always good to keep that in place just in case. So.
Right. And for anyone who might be listening, could you explain what a Section 504 plan is?
I'll try my best. I'm not quite versed in all of that, but I know that
any gaps that I find, I'll jump in and help.
Yeah. So they directed us more for IEP versus 504 because it was a medical condition because of seizures, and
right.
He was essentially, with this last neuropsych evaluation, it was it wasn't a medical delay, but it was like a medical condition. So he had the reason that he needs support is because of something that's causing him to have this misfunction in his brain. So it's just based on medical versus, I think, just learning disability, correct? Or
yeah, so it depends on what the student's needs are, but an IEP, an individualized education program, would provide specially designed instruction if he needed that, be that social, academic, functional, vocational, motorical, and speech. So he could have any of those services provided if it was appropriate with the IEP, and he gets accommodations and related services. With the Section 504, it's been determined that he doesn't need specially designed instruction in any of those areas, but he does need some supports and maybe some related services. You said he had some speech, so that may have been in there at one point. And so, yeah, it's basically, it sounds like that he has no learning concerns, which blows my mind again, just thinking about that they took part of his brain.
Yes. Exactly. It blows my mind too. I mean, he's so math intelligent. He scores so high on his math tests. They invited him to the accelerated math program, and even in reading, he's reading and he's writing. He doesn't like writing, but he does do it. But yeah, it was interesting because the neuropsych just said to me, just give it some time. His brain's swollen and it has to have time to heal.
Right.
But you can, at his age, even the speech therapist said, at his age, we can retrain all of that memory and redo all of that. And I was just fascinated at how fast he had speech for about a year. But I think within the first 3 months, he was, those words were coming back to him relatively quickly, and he was doing so much better. So I'm a very high proponent of any type of therapy. Even my daughter had speech as well, and we even had him in emotional, like cognitive behavior therapy or play therapy after the surgery and before the surgery to make sure his mental health was well, before going in, and anxiety. And so all of those things, I'm just a huge proponent of them.
Yeah, it's truly amazing to me, the technological advances, the medical discoveries, and that's kind of one of the basis of this show, is that we shouldn't look at a person either in utero, at birth, or even, whatever age, and say, well, this is it. This is as high as you're going to go. It's even or downhill from here, because we just truly don't know what sort of, like I said, technological breakthroughs, medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, miracles, and to put that limit of you will never, and to just, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of the comment by a fellow YouTuber this week, and the very negative approach to potentially having a child that was going to have disabilities. That is such a minimalistic, I feel, viewpoint, and I get it from the doctor's perspective of having to say, well, this, and this might happen,
Right.
but at the same time, they should also say, and this, and this could happen. We just don't know.
Yeah, and children are so resilient. Not that adults are, but children just have this special resiliency about them. And it just, even working in the NICU, seeing babies that shouldn't live, and their flair for life and love for life and how they see the world, and it's just so beautiful. And I think that entwines with their resilience, and that just makes them so much more adaptable and able to really fight through big things. I mean, I look at Miles and I'm like, this kid had brain surgery and he has this really cool scar. Right. He shaves his head to show everybody, and he always gets the hairdresser to shave a cool design on the other side, and he just walks around like, yeah, man, I had brain surgery, I'm awesome. And he just I mean, he got out of the hospital in 2 days. The doctors were like, this is insane. And they trusted that I was a nurse, that I was going to take care of the incision well.
Sure.
And so I think that was a part of it too. But he was like, just get me out of this hospital. And they were like, okay. And, it just blows my mind how resilient kids are. If you give them the opportunity, the space, and the support that they need, and the parents, the education. I think that's where a lot of times we fail sometimes in the medical community, is that parents aren't aware, or they don't know what to do or where to go. And if we gave them the support, then they would know how to support their own kid.
Yes. I so wholeheartedly agree with that. On your website, I know that people can go and purchase the books. Do you want me to pull up your website and show anything on there?
Yeah, sure. I have free teacher lesson plan on there for Miles's book, which is super cool. We're waiting on my cousin-in-law is a PhD in education, so she's creating the lesson plans for me. So we have free coloring pages. I write a blog, at least 2 blogs a month. It's just very educational for parents to know, how do I approach teaching my kid emotional intelligence, and how do I, they're there. Miles was so little. They were so little in this picture. So cute. We have a bunch of, the series is on there. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to the website. But so there's the books, and my Micah's is coming soon. My 3rd little one, he'll have a book too eventually. And Mariah's is the Colorful Tutus, because she loves dressing up as a princess and in tutus. And hers is in a little different direction. Hers is more, she has very big feelings, and she kind of tends to hold them in. And she's also very shy. So her book is more driven towards that. And it's different feelings in different colors. And she picked out her colors as well. And it's just about us. And there's a lot of great information on there. We have their playlist on there. So if you want to hear what music they like to listen to, we put that on there as well. But a lot of cute things on there.
I'm going to reshare, and I'm going to try to do it to where when I go to the other pages, I always get that wrong when I'm sharing which tab I'm supposed to click. So I want to be able to move around, and now I'm still drawing a blank. So you get to see my funny faces as I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. So there we go. Okay. So hopefully that shows a little bit more. So you've got it available on Amazon. And I wanted to see, okay, so we can read a sample. I was just wanting to kind of look inside the book and see some of the
you can read a sample. This is Mariah's book, and I rhymed both the books. We rhymed them because I just think children's books sound good being rhymed. And you can see in the back. So it's fun. And like I said, I never thought we were going to write a book about feelings, but it's going well. And it seems to be that a lot of people, and especially in the healthcare and education field, and OT, PT, speech, teachers are loving the idea. And we're actually trying, there's Miles's book, and we're actually trying to figure out a way to put it into classrooms so that teachers have a way to, kids have a way to pick a color and put it on their desk discreetly, so the teacher is aware of how they walk in and how they're feeling, but other students don't need to know that, but the teacher knows what emotion they're coming in with on that day. Because kids come in with different emotions. They could have different things happen at home, something that made them sad, something that made them mad, something that made them uncomfortable. And, that can really affect their learning when they walk in that classroom. And the teachers, it's not to give teachers more work. It's really just a resource and a tool to help them figure out, okay, this kid seems like they're off and they're not really, because we all know that if kids are not feeling well or they're having big emotions, they're not going to learn. They're going to be, they could just be out of it. They could have behavioral problems. They could be not focused, depending on the age, obviously. So we're trying to figure out a good way to incorporate this into the classroom that really helps the teachers as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so you did say that you have resources for teachers. You have some lesson plans. So where would they go?
Under the resources up at the top. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's the teacher lesson plan there for Miles. And then there's download your own color. Kate, we have the free coloring pages there that you can click on that we developed. So yes, and you could use the coloring pages to go with the teacher lesson plan. And then I created kind of just a parent script for navigating kids' emotions. I'm getting ready to put a bunch of new guides on there that are free as well that I haven't done yet. So I'm excited. I'm just creating those now. I love just giving out the free resources because we need all the help we can get. And all the blogs that I do have really good information of very step-by-step things that you can do with your kids. Like I just did a summer one, and life didn't get the memo that school's out because your schedule's still busy, but the kids aren't in school. So there's blogs on there that I love to just write, just giving you very easy tips to kind of I don't like to say deal, but like walk through the emotions with your kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that it's not just for teachers or parents. I also try to work with, you know, both groups because I feel that if we can collaborate and work together, then it's the child that's going to benefit the most.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
in turn, society will end up benefiting.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
I think that's the way to go. And as an advocate or a coach, whatever word you want to use to describe me, I just think that works the best. That is the best approach.
Yes, I
Okay,
agree.
so now that we've talked quite a bit about Miles and the books, I know that we kind of covered Mariah's a little bit, but is there
Mhm.
anything else that you want to talk about regarding Mariah and her book or her the reason, like you said, she has big feelings, but is there more that you want to discuss regarding that?
Yeah, sure. So she is a middle child, and so what was happening when Miles was having all of his seizures and then medical stuff and surgery? I also had a newborn, and so she was kind of stuck in the middle in this phase of mommy has a newborn and she's breastfeeding and she's spending all this, obviously this dedicated time to this
Right.
baby plus all of this dedicated time to Miles because he just physically also needs it. And
Right.
she kind of, in a way, and I admit this wholeheartedly, even though there's guilt behind it, but I'm working through that, is she kind of just got left. Obviously we loved her and we played with her and we, put
Sure.
her to bed every night, but it was just kind of this attention that got missed through a very pivotal time in her life. So between the age of 2 and 4, or really like 18 months to 3. And that's a really transformative time in kids' lives, as you
Mhm.
probably know, and most child psychologists and child behavioral therapists. I've really dove down into this, as you can tell. We kind of just realized there was big tantrums, there was big emotions. There was a lot going on, and she just seemed angry and upset. And we're like, what is happening? We thought we taught emotional intelligence with our first, and here, and so it was this
Right.
eye opening journey for us as parents, and it was definitely needed, and we're so glad that we were able to be like, wow, okay, what can we do to help her now? And so her book really stemmed from the fact that I used to get frustrated or feel embarrassed by her feelings, or frustrated or annoyed when she would have these big feelings. I was just a typical normal parent, and a lot of parents feel
Sure.
annoyed when they're at the grocery store and your kid's throwing a tantrum. Or would be very shy in new situations, and she would hide behind my leg, and it's like, we're at a birthday party, like, go have fun, and what is wrong, so just
Right.
things like that. And I realized that there's different ways that I can approach it that can help her, and that this is all normal, and that it was really a reflection of how I felt when she was having big feelings. And I felt uncomfortable, but why do I
Right.
feel uncomfortable? So I turned it back on me,
Yes.
and I was like,
Yes.
okay, I taught myself to sit in the feeling with them, and to not try to rush them through it, or to not try to feel embarrassed by it or frustrated, or so I taught myself to come with a more compassionate, loving approach, and that changed her big feelings tremendously. I mean, it was night and day within a matter of weeks, and her tantrums went down at least like 65%. It was insane. And
Yeah.
her emotional intelligence increased dramatically. And so I was just blown away by these things that we were doing. And my coach, my author, or my book coach, said, you can't just have one book. You have 3 kids. You have to do 3 books. So I thought about it. I was like, oh, I guess so. That makes sense. And so I just thought about her, and she loves tutus and she loves to dress up. She's very girly and frilly, and very opposite of how I would grow up, and how I was. So I was like embracing all of this, and so I just, instead of Miles's book, he gives capes to people when they have big feelings. It's her feelings that she has when she's in certain
Okay.
situations, and she chooses a
Right.
tutu of color that makes her feel more confident or more secure, or however the book goes. And it just really talks about those shy, big emotional kids. So I really love that we were able to bring 2 different stories to the audience.
Yeah. Which leads my curiosity to, I wonder what the third one is going to be. And I know it's coming out. So if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But if you don't want to talk about it, I completely understand that as well. And I think I love that because it really is, they're two different people. And we tend to minimize that.
Mhm.
Um, way more than we should, I think, because they're feeling and how they feel. I mean, you've got, you've got a boy, you've got a girl, you've got a first child with a lot of medical things, you have a second child. I mean, there's so many unique qualities about each one of them. So to me, it seems logical that they would respond differently to situations and emotions and how to process those. And so I love that you're able to give two different perspectives about kind of the same thing.
Yes.
And I so appreciate that. And you've mentioned the words emotional intelligence a few times, and I want to dig into that because I think the majority of the population doesn't know what that is, and doesn't know how to foster that or even understand why it's important for us to talk about it today, because it's a fairly new phrase. And by that, I mean, it's been around 10 or 20 years, but in the world of medicine and education, that's still new. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. And you're exactly right. But yes, go ahead with your question. Sorry.
No, so the question is kind of just explain what it is, why it's important, and how do parents, especially first-time parents, how do they navigate that? Why is it important? You actually said to me in a question that I asked you, it's a non-negotiable to teach it now. So why is it a non-negotiable? Why is it so important?
I feel that, and this is a big topic because nobody really, again, I had parents that did talk. My mom talked a lot about emotions and how she was always encouraging us to talk about them. So I did have a little bit of that, but I feel like not everybody did, especially generations ago. And it was kind of like, stuff those feelings down, and boys don't cry. And you just keep going,
Right.
And so I feel like we bring that baggage as a parent into our children now. And, you are the one that gets triggered. We get triggered a lot by our kids' emotions because we weren't taught that emotional intelligence, I think, as well.
Right.
And there's a study out there that in 2016, from 0 to 3, it's like a national parent survey that said 80% of parents reported feeling helpless, frustrated, overwhelmed when their child had a meltdown. And fewer than 1 of the 5 feel like they were actually taught how to really I don't like to say deal, even though that's the word that they use, but how to walk through it, right? And the science actually shows, and multiple scientific studies, you can go back and look, and I've done a lot of research about this, obviously, that children who actually receive emotional coaching, or I call it, emotional intelligence coaching, have a stronger immune system, actually, fewer behavioral problems, better social skills, higher academic achievement, things like that. So the proof is in the science. And then when I dove deeper into color, that really surprised me a lot too, because I didn't think there was going to be a lot of studies on color and emotions with kids, and there was a lot. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. It was getting so exciting that I could really because this idea didn't come from a study that I read. It just, like I said, came from my own experience. And then I went and did the study. And one of the studies, I think it was a 2018 study or something like that. But it said when children are shown their chosen feeling with a color, and then they're also told that feeling makes sense that you feel that, and it makes sense that you chose that color, cortisol levels in their body actually, which everybody knows cortisol is a stress hormone, they drop measurably faster in the groups that got verbal reassurance and verbal matching of that makes sense that you picked that color. And then color, in another study I saw, color directly influences the autonomic nervous system. So warm colors like red, orange, they activate arousal and alertness. And then colors like blue and green trigger the parasympathetic response, which is associated with like calm and safety and just I feel better. And so they noticed in this study that children's nervous systems responded to color stimuli faster than verbal instruction. And so that's what I found with my kids as well too, is that if like even if they didn't say verbally a color, I would say, let's go color how you feel right now, and they would just pick a color and they would go to town on how they were feeling. It's a one way that I teach parents to start having that color conversation, because that's the part that makes them nervous. Like, emotional intelligence is them understanding what their feelings, how it feels in their body, and understanding what tools that they can use to walk through that feeling in a healthy way, I think is what I view. And there's probably a technical dictionary term for emotional intelligence out there. I just haven't Googled it. That's kind of my term, is that giving them, being aware of the emotion, that it's normal and natural, and also not suppressing it. The intelligence to know, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is how it feels, this is okay, and what am I going to do to make myself feel better? I don't have to rush out of it, I don't have to suppress it, but what can I do to walk through this emotion and give myself tools to have a healthy, tool for a healthy outcome, or an outcome that's not like punching the wall. Because when we go and become adults, if we're not learning how to emotional intelligence and deal with these emotions, it comes out in rage and anger and hurting others and hurting ourselves and addiction and all of those things that can really affect you as your relationships and your work and your life and your children. So I really feel that that's my definition of emotional intelligence. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that description of it. And yeah, to my knowledge, that is the term, to describe it, from what tiny research I've done, but just working in the field. That seems to be, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but there is more of an, let's talk about your EI quotient instead of your intelligence quotient, your IQ. And so they want to talk about your EIQ now, and how that is, there is more research, more studies coming out showing how that does play into the role of obviously mental health, but also physical health. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I just know for myself, the better that I understand my emotions and my feelings, I don't carry that stress around, because I am of the age, I'm kind of that, my mom was good about letting me feel things. But for some reason, I felt like my dad didn't want me to feel things. That wasn't the case. It was just, he didn't know how to deal with me if I was crying, or if I was, high one moment and down the next moment. And so I misinterpreted that. So I was able then with my daughter to do more of that. Like, okay, don't wallow in your feelings for days at a time, but feel them.
Yes.
And then let's talk about them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of raising our daughter and having the way that I was raised, of like, don't fully embrace every emotion that you feel and sit in it, but feel them for sure. Express them, try to figure out, but I'm really fascinated by the color association. I mean, I knew that, as far as like marketing things, that certain colors, like why certain restaurants are the color, McDonald's has red in it, Pizza Hut has red in it, Hardee's has orange, or Target's has orange, Target is red, so marketing research has shown it for years that it elicits certain feelings. I just didn't connect the dots, I guess,
with the kids. Exactly. It's fascinating, all the studies and research about it. It's been fascinating to read. So
and that's the kind of stuff I kind of geek out about. That sort of stuff is like, like that makes like that verified what I was doing. I just didn't know that I was scientifically basing what I was doing, and that's like, teachers and trying to have rooms that are painted blues and greens and some of, the calming colors. And then schools being like, "Oh, you can't paint your room. It's got to be the boring white or gray, whatever they painted it," And it's like, okay, you're always talking about follow the science, having scientifically based instruction. Well, here's the scientifically based research.
Yeah,
So,
and
you know,
hospitals tend to have all of those colors as well. As you go to the spa, there's blue and tranquil, so if you think
yeah,
about it, it really, color does elicit certain feelings, and so that's why I actually allowed my kids to pick their feelings with their emotion, because I wanted them to, because the typical ones are like, oh, it's blue for sad, or it's red
right,
for mad, or and it's
right.
happy for sunshine. But I wanted them to be the ones to pick the colors for their book, because I was interested to see what colors, and Miles's favorite color is teal. And so he picked teal for brave. And so,
Oh,
that was fascinating to me, because he felt like when he put on his cape, he was brave, and teal was his favorite color. And so it was just fun. And so I tell parents all the time, just, you let the kids pick the color. You do this when they're not having a meltdown. Obviously, you introduce color,
right.
emotion, association when it's calm, and it's not in a moment of intense feelings of fear or anger or mad. And then you just practice once a day. And what I'll do with my kids is, especially in the summer, or sorry, not in the summer, in the school year, they'll get in the car and I'll be like, what color were you today? That's literally, and I don't say, how was your day? And what did you do? And what did you learn? Because I feel like kids zone out sometimes. They're
Right.
like, ask
Sure.
me these questions. I just got in the car, but I'll just say, what is your color today? And then if they'll say a color, and if they want to explain it, great. If they don't, later at night when we're laying in the bed and having our one-on-one time, I'll say, why did you pick that color today? And see what they
Yeah.
say. And so it's just something so simple, and you don't have to feel so awkward about saying, how are you feeling?
Right.
It's you introduce the color with the emotions, and they may change color with emotion. So if they say a random color, you're like, I'm not really sure what emotion it. How does it feel in your body, or what does it look like? And sometimes I'll have them draw it out. Like my 2-year-old, who's almost 3, if he's anger, we do a lot of physical expression of emotions, like stomping like a dinosaur, or dancing to music, or angry chalk, or angry coloring, or I'll give them crayons and I'll say, color me a picture of how your week went. So just really inviting them and involving them in the process. Is they love it, because it's play. Kids love play, and they love color.
Right, absolutely. And I very much appreciate you sharing kind of how to incorporate the books into a family's life.
Yeah.
Because, when I talk to most parents, they most of the time either already knew that I was a special education teacher, or they find out in our conversation. And then when I, give them ideas, they just think, well, that because you're a teacher.
Mhm.
And so I very much appreciate that you're giving these suggestions. Are there suggestions within the books, or are the suggestions where they need to come to your website to find them?
Yes. So I have something that I created called the color code steps, which I'm creating a little guide on that now, which I am going to put on the website. But it's basically teach the color before you need it, introduce the colors to the feelings during calm moments, and then do let them pick the colors, and then practice during calm moments, and make it a daily ritual.
Right.
And it just steps into how to do that. But the book, in Miles's book, it does have a tool with each cape. So for instance, I could just read you a little part just so really quickly of like a tool. So we have a friend in the book. All of the people that are in the book are people we know as well, that his friends. And one of his friends is Vivian, and she's actually autistic. And so, the book is basically, one thing about Viv is that everyone should know, when she gets mad, her temper will show. It's not clear what made her so angry that day, but Miles gave her the red cape, and here is what he had to say. When I get mad, I squeeze a pillow tight. It helps me find my center and feel all right. Vivi picked up her lion and gave it a try, squeezing so hard Miles thought it might cry. It made her feel better. Miles taught her something new. Anger is a feeling that builds up in you. But if you don't let it out somehow, some way, it will pull you down and never go away. So the book, each color, Miles has a tool that he gives his friends. And then even in Mariah's book, like, she has tired as a feeling, and it's white, and she'll go sit on the swings and rest. It gives a tool in the book as well.
And it's so important. And I want to, you've said it a couple of times, but I want even to reiterate it and highlight it more is you teach these things when the child is calm,
Yeah.
when they're, it's not in the moment of feeling the feeling,
Right.
it's okay. Like, as you mentioned earlier too, as teachers, we know if a child is hungry or tired or having big emotions or stressed about something, even if we don't see it, their ability to receive what we are trying to teach them
Hmm.
is is almost gone
Yeah.
because they're having these other things happening in their brain, and it's not something that they are consciously
Mm-mm.
doing. And oh well, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I'm not listening to you. It's the
Hmm.
brain's way to protect itself and to protect
Yes.
the body that it's in. And it can only handle so much. I mean, I know we don't access, I think, something like 85% of our brain.
Hmm.
Um, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I know it can do more,
Yes.
but being able to manage what we have and be able to function within that. And so it's very key when you're dealing with anything related to behavior. If you're wanting to teach different strategies, if you're wanting to teach particular ways to getting access to sharing those feelings, those things all have to be practiced not in the middle of the situation. when
Yes.
the when the
Correct.
child is calm, when you as the parent are calm, and
Hmm.
you teach it and then you practice it. You
Yep.
can't just teach it and presume that the child is going to employ it when they need it.
Hmm.
It's like a muscle memory where you
Yes.
have to practice it so that when the situation occurs, the brain automatically responds in that way that you have taught and practiced it. That is the calmer, safer, more appropriate, whatever wording you want to put there,
Hmm.
way to go about doing that.
Yes,
So,
and the fun thing about this particular thing is it is fun. It's fun to
right,
teach and to practice. Maybe parents don't love coloring or playing. Some parents don't love that, but the kids
right,
love it. So the kids are more than willing to practice. Even when I took Miles to speech, he's like, "Oh, I don't want to practice my speech at home." And but kids
right,
love to color, they love to paint, they love to play, superhero dress up, tutu dress up, right? So even though it is practice and you're practicing with them, it tends to be an easier thing to do with kids because they like it. And
right.
I've had a podcast host ask me this question, like, "Oh, so you just let your kids, like, how do they build up resilience and they feel every feeling and they just go on there?" And I always say that our kids we teach them the tools to come out of the feeling, right? How do we self-soothe? How do we soothe? And kids don't really learn how to self-soothe without a parent by until age 3 to 6 is the
Mhm.
range. The kids can do it at different ages, but with parent co-regulation near them. But as adults, you're teaching them how to feel the feeling, not suppress it, so that it comes out later in a not great way,
Right,
and walk through it and give yourself a tool to move through it, right? Healthy. So it's not about, like you said, sitting in it and wallowing in it. It's not about suppressing it. It's not about, like, oh my gosh, I have to let them feel and react to every feeling that they're having. Because when they are having that feeling, I call it the anti-fix for parents, because it is one of the hardest things that a parent has to do with these emotions. And I had to really teach myself this, and I still have to really concentrate on this because I always want to fix it. I'm a nurse and I'm a mom, and I want to fix
right,
everything. I want to fix everybody's emotions, their problems, their boo-boos, whatever it is.
right.
I am a fixer, and I've had to learn that as the hardest part of a parent is that it's an anti-fix sometimes for emotions, right? So what you don't need to do, you don't need to fix it, you don't need to explain it, you don't need to give a consequence, you don't need to redirect, you don't need to offer a snack, which I used to do. You don't need to make it stop. And that's the uncomfortable part with the parent, is sitting in it. You can just breathe, you can sit down with them, you can say, "I see that red color, whatever, but one word, I see that you're red today, or see that you're blue today." And then that's it, and the
Right.
anti-fix is just, "I see you and I'm right here. It's okay to cry. We'll wait till you're finished." Or, "Do you want me to sit with you?" Or, "You're safe. I've got you." Whatever, something super simple, and we don't have to fix it. We can just We can
Right.
sit with them in it. And that's the hardest part, I think, about being a parent, is just like, okay, this is okay that they're having this feeling. It's not affecting, it's not going to affect me. I'm going to be, so what happens is, as kids, I always tell parents, we want their basic needs met and for them to learn or to
Hmm.
have a regulated nervous system. So what are your basic needs as humans? Hunger, water, sleep, right?
Right. Hmm.
Feeling of safety. And so if all of those things are met and your child's having a crazy breakdown, you're like, okay, are they hungry? Are they exhausted? Are they overstimulated? Do they feel safe? Do they feel scared? So if I've run through the basics kind of in my head, and I'm like, okay, it's just their overwhelmed nervous system or something's missing, right? There's something going on that they're having this reaction to. And then I'll just sit in the moment with them and I'll think to myself, this is not about me. They're not doing this to make me mad.
Right.
I feel my own trigger. I feel itchy in my skin. Like I need to fix this,
Yeah.
but I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to model. And my modeling is breathing. I just do that. That's my model. And I model, and when they come out of it and they're watching, they start to breathe with me. And actually with practice, my 2-year-old, if a 2-year-old can do it, you can teach your kid to do it. So I've been teaching my kid the breathing, modeling breathing since he was a baby. And now he'll hurt himself or he'll get mad and I'll just go, or he'll deep breathe. He'll start deep breathing.
Right.
Or even he'll say to me, Mommy, you just need to take a deep breath. It's okay. Let's breathe together. He even tells me and he's 2. So, it just takes practice. And I know we're busy parents and we're busy teachers and we're busy, anybody that works in anything with kids, we're busy. But this, just with a little bit of practice, can change your life exponentially with your children's and your relationship and their relationship with feelings. And they'll grow up knowing how and what to do to take the steps to feel better if they're having an emotion.
Right. And I think, and unfortunately, our time is almost up. So there's a couple things that I want to say. I think, unfortunately, we don't realize that emotion is a skill.
Yes.
And if we think of it that way, we taught our children when they were growing up, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't, don't run with scissors because you could get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
We teach those skills, but we don't teach how to respond when you feel certain ways. And I think for many generations, it was, well, we must not talk about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we're just not going to talk about it. We're just going to suppress it. And then you had, finally some eras that it was allowed to be expressed, but then it was, well, don't express it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, and so it's teaching the adults the skill
Mm-hmm.
as well as the children. And I think that's a lot of the uncomfortableness. Like you
Yes.
said,
Mm-hmm.
you were feeling uncomfortable or you
Yep.
feel uncomfortable when one of your children is acting up, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
in the grocery store or out in public. They're also feeling very uncomfortable, or honestly, they wouldn't be acting the way that they're acting in that moment. Something
Correct.
is making them feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not intentionally saying, well, I feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to act this way and I'm going to make mom or dad feel uncomfortable. And therefore I'm going to get what I want. There is a little of that in certain sections.
Yeah.
There's definitely a temper tantrum and a
Yes.
meltdown difference.
Correct.
There are 100% differences.
Yes.
And yes, giving your child whatever they're having a tantrum about, and then that tantrum stops, that's how you know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, it's not an emotion. It's
Yeah.
I want this thing and I want it now. And that is another whole skill that has to be addressed.
Yes.
And I think we just need to remember that as
Mm-hmm.
parents. Like, we have to directly teach. We are processing a ridiculous amount of information every day.
Mm-hmm.
And our children don't have the brain capability
Mm-hmm.
before they're like 20 almost
Yeah.
to really weed out what's important and what's not if some adult isn't guiding them
Mm-hmm.
to let them know that. And
Yeah.
so in past, we didn't process that much information, and so it was easier to receive, oh, this is important, I can tell, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody does this particular thing. there's so much going into our brains now, 74 gigabytes of information a day.
Yes.
And
Wow.
it is. And
Mhm.
it's just to think of processing all of that, our brain has to eliminate most of it. So if there's something important that you want your child to know and be able to do, you have to teach it to them. You can't
Yes.
just expect that they're going to pick it up somehow, some way. You have
Yes.
to sit down and actually work with them and teach them. And these books sound like they are fabulous ways,
Mhm.
especially to address the emotional side of life. And I just want to make sure I've shown your website, but I want to make sure to say it out loud. It is colorful capes of feelings.com. So colorfulcapesofeelings.com. Colorful capes of feelings.com. And if they want to get a hold of you through email, it's info at that same address, Colorful Capes of Feelings. And you are on one social media platform, or are you on multiple?
Just on Instagram.
Just on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can only handle one. I barely handle that one. It's just so much like content creation. I'm not great at that.
Right.
I try.
No, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, make sure, guys, that you go out and you follow her on Instagram. Again, just look up Colorful Feelings of Capes, or Colorful Feelings Books. I'm sorry, for Instagram. And then yeah, check out her website. Reach out to her for more information. Go buy the books. They sound like they are an absolute amazing resource. I've looked at them. I haven't utilized them in the teaching aspect of them, but I can absolutely see that they would be a tremendous help. In fact, I'm thinking of a family that I want to buy them for and get them. And so, with that, I want to just, there was a thought that I had, and I wanted to make sure that I asked this question. You wrote the books, they're based on your children. You are not saying that all boys feel this way, all girls feel this way.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So really, the book is just based on how Miles felt, or how children can feel in certain situations,
Right.
and based on the colors that he chose. So I always tell parents, I say, you know your child the best. What does your child love? So I say, pick the thing your child loves. Say it's cars. And you say, okay, we're going to use cars, and we're going to pick the color cars for the emotion. And when you're having this feeling, you can go grab that car. So you have to cater to your child and their loves. So you know your child, what do they love? What would this, feel right to them? And you say, and they might not even know, especially when they're like 1 or 2, what the word mad is, right? So you're using these words, and you have to model the feeling, and you have to say it when they're doing that thing. So when I'm mad, I say, I'm feeling so mad. And I like make the face and I do the modeling, right? Or I'm feeling so sad, so I'm very dramatic, not all the time, but like when I'm teaching, I'm not like that all the time, but I'm teaching in the moment of modeling. And then when they're that way, I'm like, you seem like you're mad. You're making the face like you're mad. Are you mad? What color? So I mean, it's it's just talking out loud, really. It's not like you're sitting there having an education lesson with them. It's like you're just modeling your own feelings, or you're saying, oh, I'm noticing you're making a face like that. That seems like a mad face. So and kids by the age of 2, they know mostly what, mad, sad, happy are. They know the basic emotions. And so really that's where that comes from. And I always the last thing I really want to say is that just know that when you suppress your emotions, it can cause, as you said, significant physical problems. And we see the studies on this with adults and children, that just their immune systems in particular, because it breaks down their nervous system and their hormones, and it dysregulates them. So not only immune system, but we've seen how stress can cause lots of things that are not great physically, especially for our children. And so if you don't take anything else away from it, that feelings, we're teaching feelings, we're talking about feelings, maybe just take away the fact that you can teach emotional intelligence because it actually physically helps them, even as into adulthood, be a physically more healthy person.
And if you want to have a real world example, come and talk to me, because I was very unhealthy as a child, was at the doctor monthly, sometimes weekly. And now my doctor has to call me and say, "You haven't been here for over a year. You need to come in." And it is tremendously amount due to me understanding my emotions and feeling them and learning how to process them and be appropriate and all the things. So yeah, I'm so glad that you said that. And I so appreciate, like I said, I looked at the clock and went, oh my gosh, this has been such a fast conversation and so wonderful. I so appreciate you being my guest today. And guys, like I said, go to her website, check things out, get those free resources for parents and teachers, hop over to Amazon, purchase her books. And just remember, you know who you are today, and we all know who we are today, but not who we will be. Have a great week. Bye bye.